Good evening. We'd like to call the Town of Colonial Beach Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission Board meeting to order, October 11th, 2022. At this time, I would like our members to introduce themselves and let us know if they have any announcements or information they'd like to share.
Mike Munnis. The only thing I want to do is put a shout out to Katie's staff who put together the Healthy Kids Running Series. It has been a huge success, and it's going to continue through next weekend. But we had a really good turnout, 30 to 50 kids every Sunday. So she did a great job.
Eileen Heath, I'm going to discuss a little bit once we get into the agenda about the tennis program and tennis mentoring programs.
Okay. Karen Grisovich, I'd like to say that the farmers market this season has been a huge success. It will continue through the end of October with one or two vendors there. And I'd also like to announce that Colonial Beach Outfitters this summer will be doing bike rentals, kayak rentals, Surrey rentals, tandem bike rentals, all the cool ride stuff. So more to come with that soon. Mr. Duke.
Yes, ma'am.
Agenda.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Bobby Duke, Director of Parks and Rec, and I have a lot to tell you about once we get to the director's report.
Okay, are we okay that we do not have a town council person?
Yes, they're not required to be here.
Okay. Okay, at this time, do we have any additions to our agenda?
As I said, I'd like to add just some brief comments about the tennis program.
Okay, we'll put that under football.
Thank you.
Bobby, under the director's report, is that where you're going to make all the other announcements concerning? Okay, perfect. Okay, I would like to ask that we approve the agenda as it is written now with the one addition.
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved as written. At this time, we need to approve the minutes from our July meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes from July as written?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. The minutes are approved as written. At this time, we are going to have our citizen input with emphasis on Eleanor Park and the future of our other parks. I believe, Bobby, you have a few that you'd like to read first. Oh, and two things. This is not a question and answer back and forth, and we're going to keep comments to 3 minutes. If Eileen, you would do that for me, please.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, 2 comments I received via email per the request that I made on Facebook. The first comment, excuse me, emailed in was from Miss Cassie Benson. She says, I prefer that it be left in its natural pristine state with a few benches. It is a joy as is. Not everything in Colonial Beach needs to be developed. Preserve as is. Again, that was Miss Cassie Benson, 217 Longfellow. And the second comment was from Mr. Jim Green, 12th Street. He did not list his street address, or excuse me, the actual house address. But Mr. Duke, I respectfully ask that new surveys be conducted as to what the disposition of the park should be. I understand that past social media polls show that 70% plus of people would like the park to be developed into something that will make revenue for the town. While not scientific, it is a data point and should be taken into consideration. Thank you for asking for input. Jim Green, 12th Street. And that's the 2 comments we had submitted via email.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edward Hart.
You can pull it up to you. Oh, is that not on?
Is it not on?
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Edward Hart. I reside at 1321 Lossing Avenue. Just a few things that I'd like to say about Eleanor Park. First of all, I'd like to know when the benches have been ordered. I know this is not a question and answer, but the benches, I'd like to know when they've been ordered, when they're going to be installed. What's the next process for that? I would like to see some exercise equipment, possibly a flagpole, a doggy pet way station, a new one at the other end of Eleanor Park on the south side on Irving Avenue. Walking paths, talk about parking on Irving Avenue. What's planned for that? I'm not quite sure, but I just want to know what that's going to entail. Some landscaping, some palmas grasses along a pathway would be quite nice. Keep it low, keep it vibrant. Also possibly a gazebo and maybe a fountain of some sort. But those are just a few things that I thought of as I was standing here to input this evening. So with that said, moving forward, have a plan forward. I don't know what the plan is, but it would be nice to know from what Parks and Rec is going to do moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reminder.
Susan Mack.
Good evening. Good evening.
It's not working, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm loud. I can drop it. Good evening, Susan Mack, 1541 Irving Avenue. I think this is a great opportunity to make a wonderful space for the whole community. We can have, I want to echo some of what Edward suggested. A pavilion would be a nice addition. The benches for sure. I think people going to play with their dog in that space. I think people sitting to watch the sun rise in the morning, sunset in the evening would be wonderful for everybody in the community who doesn't already have a waterfront view. I think keeping it simple, I think Ms. Benson suggested that we don't want to do it there. We don't want to develop it there, but keep it green. Plantings, landscaping, make it even more beautiful than it is. It would be a wonderful thing. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, Eric Nelson.
Good evening, Eric Nelson, 1321 Lossing Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important subject. Eleanor Park is a subject that's been near and dear to my heart for a long while. It's a wonderful town asset and it needs to be enjoyed by as many of the town's population as possible because it is such a beautiful place and the only remaining waterfront park that we have. I agree with everything that Susan Mack said and that my husband said. I would maybe also add maybe some Adirondack chairs or something like that. Basically, I think it's a place where people can come and be sort of surround themselves with the nature and to enjoy the vistas and maybe at some point in the future, I know in one of the documents that I've seen, there was the idea of putting a pier across the street from Eleanor Park. I think at some point in the distant future, that might be a nice idea as well, so that people can actually go out into the water, over the water, and enjoy the sunrises and the moonrises. The moonrise, for example, last night was just spectacular. And I actually watched it from Helena Park, and it was beautiful. And more people should be able to enjoy that sort of scenery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all for coming and being a part of this discussion that has gone on for a long time. We're excited about the role that we're going to get to play in helping shape something come to fruition. And I think once some of our other reports happen, some of the questions and things will be answered. Do we have any comments that either of you all would like to make concerning it at this point?
I do. I just want to make sure that whether this is to be included or not. When we started talking about doing this and having an open forum, at least just to start getting ideas, kind of like stimulate thoughts for what we want to do. Karen had provided an exhaustive list of folks that provided input to her. I don't know if you'd call that official input. I just didn't know if you make that a matter of record. So when we start going down the road of thoughts or ideas, we have a pretty good list plus what everybody's providing here now, so we don't have to go back, or not so that we don't have to go back, but at least we can start framing, like there's some things that they want to Ferris wheel, there's probably some things we can say, probably not a good idea every time. So if we include that in there, which if you don't have the email, I still have it from her with the full list.
I do.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Mons, I was actually hoping that she would be here, because she could answer a myriad of questions that have been posed tonight. And I will answer as many questions as I can directly, not having a back and forth with you folks. But I think we should enter that as a matter of record from the comments that she's collected.
And this is Dr. Sullivan.
Yes, Dr. Karen.
Yes, Dr.
To do.
Not me.
Thank you.
Not just random.
Hey.
Hello, Karen.
Um,
The only thing that I could think of, I thought all the suggestions were great, and I appreciated all the information I got earlier from Dr. Sullivan as well. And I continue to like to hear even more. I know people listen in because they tell me they listen in, but we need to hear from them too. This is a fairly good size. I mean, we keep hearing it's a small town, but when problems come up, there's lots of people. When everything's smooth, you don't see anybody, you don't hear anybody. But we don't want to get to the point where we're moving forward on all these things and people go, well, I wanted this. Well, now's the time. We really want to start hearing from y'all. Please speak up. As far as the benches go that have been ordered, my understanding, and Bobby, you might be able to clear this up, was done through Green Space. Green Space has helped, been a liaison with us as far as fundraising, and they are the ones who have ordered the benches and know how many benches. I think, from my understanding, we're waiting on a go-ahead on where, so that things aren't just randomly put in, but thought through before we move any farther on it. That's all I have to say.
And I just would like to add, I mean, again, we have been discussing this, a lot of these things. There are a lot of moving pieces and a lot of layers that go on behind the scenes and through the government piece of this and the grants and different things. But I also want to make it clear that we are thinking about and working forward with all of our parks, not just Eleanor Park, you know, in regards to ADA compliance, in regard to electricity, in regard to water and bathrooms and trash, all the non-sexy things that are part of having a Parks and Rec department and having parks that the public can use, that we want to be safe and clean and, you know, a fun place for everybody to enjoy the outdoors, since we're all so lucky to live in such a unique place. So, Bobby, anything else at this time?
No, ma'am, I'll take notes. I'll address some of these things when we get to my point.
Okay, perfect. Kenny, welcome. We are to the council report. Do you have anything at this time you need to share with us?
I think everybody knows me by now. Kenny Allison, Town Council Liaison to, I was going to say Planning Commission, Parks and Rec. So no, I don't have any information to provide tonight. I will take back what I said. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you did that. My brain's not quite here with this smoke. But yes, I will, any information we provide, we'll certainly reach back to town council. And if we receive any information, I expected a lot more people here considering the topic. But I'm glad that y'all came out to support Eleanor Park and continuing to keep the park park.
And I just want to take a quick moment to publicly thank you for all the things you're doing at the football games and all the things you're doing at the school. That's been fun.
Fun.
Those burgers and hot dogs are pretty good.
Okay, moving on, the director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a lot to discuss and to fill you in on, so this might take a few moments. First, I want to introduce to folks who don't know Sally. Sally Adams, she came on board with us just past week. Last week, and she has hit the ground running. We've had a couple other folks that have worked for us, and they've been really, really good. And they've been stolen away by other departments. So I'm hoping that Sally is going to stick with me for a while, because if you walk into my office, there's a big wall with events, both Parks and Rec stuff that we're considering, town events, NGO events, and we've got it going almost into next summer. So thank you, Sally, for coming on board. She's probably going to be reaching out to some of you individually about some events that we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. Absolutely.
So just to clarify too, just because this is new to all of us, is this how many hours a week kind of thing?
Sally is part-time. She can work up to 29 hours a week. And if she continues at that clip, I'm going to have to ask the councilman for some budget amendments to throw me some more money, because she's been invaluable just in this last week. So I'd love to have her 40 hours a week, but we're not quite there. So.
And what is her official title?
I don't, just Parks and Rec assistant.
Okay.
So, to Mr. Munnis's point about the kids running series, we were not able to give a full sponsorship based on the budget. So we did sponsor 2 children that may have been interested but could not otherwise afford to pay the entry fees. So kudos to the folks at the gym who were able to put that on. It sounds like it was a big success, and hopefully they were able to take advantage of our tiny donation to help out with kids that wanted to participate. Let's see. I wanted to thank you folks and Doug for National Night Out. You were dealing with some health issues with your daughter, so we excused you. We're glad that she's home safe and feeling better. Doug was there to help with setup, tear down. Eileen and John were there. Mike came by and played basketball with me. But Doug was, I don't know if you saw your credit card bill, but he ordered a lot of pizza for everybody that showed up and was able to give that to the kids and yours truly. So we thank you guys for doing that, and thank you, Doug. Specific to some of the comments that were made, I don't know, Eileen was at the council meeting. We did discuss the idea that council wanted to bring back the idea of a Northside Park. We've made no progress in what that'll look like. The councilman wanted to add it to the agenda. And I think at this point, we gave them some options, and I, myself, and staff made the recommendation that we need to hire a parks consultant to do a parks master plan before we get into doing any more parks. Because as you're well aware, we've discussed ADA, we've discussed mulch, we've discussed upkeep of our parks, and we really need a trained professional to come in here and take a look at all those parks, to include Eleanor and a potential Northside Park, as to what that could look like, what costs we would have to incur. But the momentum, and you folks supported it long time ago, to have a park on the north side is definitely, hopefully, going to happen. We need to hire somebody that can lead us in a direction that we know what we can afford to do up there, what we can afford to do at Eleanor. The benches discussion,
Can I ask a
please.
quick question
Yes.
about that? Where are the pool of people that you're like looking at to come in and be that, fill that role of?
We put out an RFP back 4 or 5 months ago. We had 2 firms that responded to that, and we actually did some initial interviews. We haven't chosen either one of them because the inevitable question of how we were going to pay for it came up. So we have made the recommendation to council that we do that with their mandate of find out how we're going to pay for it. So please.
So the last council meeting, there was a discussion about that, and it was pressed to India to basically come up with the funding lines to figure out where we would pay for a consultant. As I mentioned also in the council meeting, I had gone previously to VML, which is the Virginia Municipal League, and one of the conferences that I attended was, when do you hire experts? When do you outside experts? Now, parks are covering a lot of different things, they're young, the elderly, ADA, there's a lot of pieces involved in that. And it's certainly one of the areas where we want to find some outside help that's either done it before or, developed a master plan for that type of thing. So we're not guessing, right? We don't want to guess, spend money incorrectly. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, but during those master plan development, they'll be setting up interviews, town halls, those type of things with the community to figure out what type of things, like what we're doing here, but, more concise type information that they can pull together and see what they've done in other municipalities and say, for this size lot, we recommend X, Y, Z. We can want a Ferris wheel, or we can want a bowling alley, or we can want whatever we want. But let's be real, right? Like, what is the budget? What is the outcome? What do you really want to see? And engage the citizens to figure that out.
There's a group I've worked with multiple times over the years. It's called Project for Public Spaces. And they do a very, very nice job of getting a feel for the spaces and getting a feel for the community involved and the community that would be using those spaces. I mean, they were intricate in redoing the 17th Street Marketplace in Richmond, and it went from what it was to something that's brand new, and they were really good at keeping the feel of the old as part of what was happening, but then also embracing new progressive thoughts and ideas. So I know that's always our kind of tug of war here. So that may be just an agency that you want to look into.
What was the name of that, please?
Project for Public Spaces. They have a really cool, they have one of the things they do is like, they have the listing of the top 10 things you need in a space to make it be a, vibrant public space, be it a park or a gathering space or, their website also has a lot of really cool information on it.
Right. I think once staff identifies where we would pay for this out of, what fund, then we can actively go back to folks that provided the RFP and hopefully go from there. Because the renderings that, and Mr. Allison mentioned this council meeting, when we go for grants or we do planning like this, we can't get grants without like shovel-ready plans, for example. A consultant could provide those sorts of things that we on staff simply cannot figure out how to do. JC and I applied for the T-Mobile grant. I think I told you folks about a couple months ago. They asked for a rendering of what the Northside Park would potentially look like. And he did a pretty good job for a novice, but we need professional people that can do that sort of thing for us. So I will report back to you folks. I'm sure you'll find out at the council meeting whether it passes. I really do think, and Kenny can correct me if I'm wrong, there is some momentum building towards having a park up there. We talked about in campaigns and talked about here and other places, so we're hoping that we can get this done. And we certainly have the public support for it. A couple things I might mention, Madam Chair, real quick, that you might be able to scratch off of your list. Agenda item 1, movie in the park. We have rescheduled that for, I got the post here real quick. October 22nd, 6 o'clock. We're gonna start the movie at 7, but we've advertised 6 so everybody can come gather around. We're gonna have popcorn. We're gonna do it at the community center. Doug and I did movie night at the Hill one night. And it was just, it was 100 degrees and people were honking their horns and.
That follows the car parade.
Yeah. No, they're the 29th.
No, 22nd.
22nd, beg your pardon. Remember? We had this discussion today.
We had this
The
discussion.
golf cart parade?
Yes, correct.
Yes, okay, sorry. And then,
We're gonna advertise it.
and then one other thing I'd like to mention that is Sally's brainchild, the decorated door contest. So if we've already had one submission, if you decorate your door for the holiday, the upcoming Halloween/fall holiday, submit your name and address. We'll take all the submissions and we're going to start judging on the 24th, correct, Sally? And then we will blast the winners on social media, and I have the authority to maybe go get somebody a gift card or something like that. So it's just something fun that the community can get involved with. Last thing I wanted to mention, and you folks, we've talked about it seemingly ad nauseum, but I was finally able to pin down the 2 barristers that we have in town hall about the roles of the commission. And I think I passed that all on to you offline. I think it would behoove you to sit down and take a look at the bylaws, if you so choose, to include my 2 new responsibilities with the vendor program and the special events coordinator. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts that those 2 things have chewed up a lot of my time over the last 3 or 4 months. And if you folks want to be an advisory commission to those things as well, I certainly don't have a problem with it. The bylaws would have to be amended, sent to council and have them approve of them. There's a lot of moving parts again with the vendor program. It's been really rough moving those folks up to the top of the hill with the sale of the Dodson property. I had to mediate some issues on Friday between the event holders of the Bike Fest and one of the vendors that was already there. So again, if you want to include that oversight, so to speak, I wouldn't have a problem with it, because you probably could add some insight into the future of the vendor program. As we know, it's not going to be the traditional boardwalk vendor program. And then obviously any input that you folks would want to have on special events, what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, the permitting process for special events, for example. So I would encourage you to get together, the 3 of you and our newer members, when we get to that point, to come up with additions to the bylaws to make that a reality.
I think the reality is when we did do the bylaws, what we kind of did was use the planning commission ones. And so it was a template. It necessarily wasn't what works for us as our own commission and entity. And I think part of the discussion that we've continued to have is hearing from council, hearing from town management, what our true expectations are, and that those bylaws need to reflect that.
I would agree. And to take that one step further, the bylaws don't really mention much about what we're doing here tonight, for example. So soliciting input on the future of our parks, whether it be Northside Park or what Eleanor Park is going to look like 6 months down the road, I think should have its infancy in this commission,
Well, yeah.
which
and
is
I
why
think-
we wanted to have this discussion.
Sure, and I think another piece of that is this town is full of very knowledgeable people, very dedicated people, people with a lot of assets and knowledge that could readily serve on committees and things that could be branched off from what we are creating here. I think at this point in time, and this is just my opinion from some of my frustrations and things and doing this for now almost 3 years, and trying to be positive about everything still. I think we need to use this time to clean house, clean up, use the fall to figure out, what we are doing sitting up here, when we all have busy lives and a lot going on. We wouldn't be here if we didn't love the town and weren't vested in what a Parks and Rec should be. Nor, I feel like, would we have been chosen to sit up here if we did not have that kind of knowledge. But again, I think there's some people here in the community now that don't necessarily want to be on a commission per se, but would be great on an advisory committee concerning Torrey Smith, concerning some things. And so it's one of the things, Sally, I would love to talk to you about sometime, and helping possibly organize some things like that as we revamp and redo.
Well, I'm not an attorney, so if anybody knows one that would be willing to do some pro bono work to just take a look at the bylaws, for example, and add the language that you folks really want to see, I think we can do that. I think this is the way. I think you folks and whoever is going to be on the commission should make the changes that you want to see made. We add the legal language and have council vote on it, because I really don't think they would have an issue. But the fact of the matter is, we need to broaden y'all's responsibility, so to speak, to make it what you really, really wanted to do in the first place. And I understand your frustrations with, hey, why is there beach signs being erected? We didn't know about it. Well, I found out about it when I pulled into the boardwalk that morning. They were putting up new signs. Edward called me when they were putting up Eleanor Park signs. Seriously. So these are things that I apologize, but they happen to me as well. But I think if we broaden the responsibilities of the commission, we might be able to hopefully avoid those sorts of things in the future.
I've got a question for you, Bobby. Is there a reason we wouldn't use the town council that we already have?
Town what?
The lawyer?
Well, it's really a process question, to be quite honest with you. So if you submitted changes that you wanted to see, I guess by asking if there's a pro bono lawyer, I was kind of like half joking, like, because I can't write the bylaws. If you guys can, that's great. But Vivian, for example, could put the correct language in there. We just have to know what you want it to look like. So yes, she would do that.
I think what he's saying is provide a rough draft, and then they will provide the legalese language.
Yeah, because I can't.
Right.
Thank you.
So yes, I think it's a great idea. And it would, and obviously, I can't repeat enough. I share your frustrations when someone on the street asks you a question. And I mean, there have been times people have asked me, what the heck's going on with Eleanor Park? I'm like, I don't know. As soon as we get some money from the Commonwealth, then I guess we'll know more. So that's all I have. I realize it checked a couple boxes on the agenda items, so I apologize, but I might have just wanted to update you on those real quick.
Any other questions for Bobby at this time?
Just real quick, do we have, what is our approach on our replacing?
That's coming.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That was a question about the replacement for Philip.
That's an agenda. Okay, so moving to number 9, the agenda items, moving in the park. I guess you touched on that, Bobby. It's going to be October 22nd.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Fall soccer.
I'm going to wrap the 2 fall soccer, fall 3-on-3 basketball into one discussion. We now have it's not in memorandum of understanding. I don't know what the legal language was. Staff went and met with the superintendent of schools, and they have basically allowed us to use their facilities when they don't have anything else going on. So we would like to schedule those sorts of events later in the fall, early winter, but I do have to get with the superintendent to make sure we can use the facilities on maybe Saturday mornings and stuff like that.
Okay, but soccer, we're still just kind of on hold for that right now then.
Yeah, I wanted to start doing it, to be quite honest with you, on the Hill. But we have a bunch of events coming up the next month. And I don't know if we can jam it in there. And then it gets dark at 4:35 nowadays, so I don't know if we can have it in the evening. So I thought, well, let's try and get it at school now that we have this agreement. It's warmer, and then we can do it on Saturday mornings, for example.
Okay, now, Mike, the reappointments.
Okay, the Madam Clerk told me a couple of weeks ago that we have a few of them coming up, and this was before Philip resigned. Mike, you're up in this month, as a matter of fact, so we need to reappoint you. Nisha is in December, and as far as Philip's replacement, we would have to probably reach out into the community and advertise that this is an open spot. I'm assuming that his spot probably won't be open until right around the time Eileen's would be up, her seat, which would be what, in the spring? I'd have to double check.
I don't know.
Because they had some staggered terms in there. So I'll double check
I
on
don't
that.
even know what mine is.
Because I was asked in November, but after everything got changed around on how somebody got appointed, it took about 4 months for them to get back to letting me know that I was appointed.
They went from 5 to 7 and back
So
to 5.
hopefully we can do something quicker than that to fill the seat.
Right. So my suggestion, and if it's okay with you folks, that I will ask the clerk to advertise for the new spot. I will ask the council to reappoint Mr. Monis. And just an FYI, Nisha couldn't be here tonight because she had her last volleyball game. She's up in December. So
Should we go ahead and have her reappointment too then, or is that possible?
I think we can do it a month in advance. I don't see why not. Kenny, do you know the parliamentary?
I do not.
What's that?
So we might want to look at our bylaws again and see what it says.
Yeah.
Just thinking.
No, I do need to pin down when people's seats are over. That's my fault, but I know that they're staggered. Like I know that people have a two-year and a 4-year, so.
Okay.
And then,
So all right, so then the next one, the bylaws change. Folks up here, do we want our November meeting, that to be something that we pick apart, look at beforehand, and then,
I think look at beforehand for sure. I don't want to come here with
right, and
starting that point.
Exactly.
I think we get the draft sent out to everybody, and then that's a short time. I'm just thinking of everybody's schedules. I don't know if I want to press us to have something by then.
perhaps December,
Yeah.
we could chat about it in November and then vote
Or
on
we
it.
could have a separate working session for that.
yeah, I think we probably should have one just for that, but we have the information
Or
started.
maybe we
so
do something close to mid-November before the holidays start.
And at least have your next member, your newest member.
As part of
appointed.
that discussion, yes. Because my question is, I mean, these days that we end up, is election day November the 1st?
No, ma'am, I think it's the 8th.
Okay, so we're fine. Okay.
So we will meet election day?
No, our meeting is November the 1st, Tuesday.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the last thing, obviously, Madam Chair, was football. We chatted about it last spring with the vice chair, I believe, of the Colonial Beach Youth Athletic Association. It's come to my attention, and I don't know how accurate this is, that Pat I is willing to just relinquish his presidency, and that we could theoretically try and get involved with the football and cheerleading program. Now, I've got volunteers lined up. And I thank Mr. Allison and his wife and Heather Oliver, Madam Clerk, and several others who are willing to do an inventory of the current stuff. We're going to probably get together in the next couple of weeks, count helmets, count jerseys, hopefully liquidate the old bank account that those folks have and move that over to Parks and Rec if we choose to. I'm excited about the potential of doing it, but I'm not going to lie, it's a huge, huge volunteer undertaking. And I feel better about it now that Sally's here and folks have said that they would help out. But I would really like your input as to how, sorry, this keeps breaking up. Your input as one of the things with the bylaws is coming up with creative ways to pay for these things. And Little League football, from my just years ago doing it, it's expensive. I think registration fees could range from $50 to $75. When my father was doing it, we really didn't turn any kids away. They were able to subsidize kids that couldn't afford it. So we would have to do a lot of figuring on how we get new supplies. And of course, if we were able to come to some sort of price mechanism and cost, I can include that in my budget every year. We're willing to go down that road. But, you know, Doug, I know, has a lot of experience playing lacrosse. You know, that's expensive, but it's probably not as expensive as football equipment, stuff like that. So, in the cheerleading aspect of it, it's a little cheaper for uniforms and things of that nature, but it's good news in the sense that I think we can do it. It's just us having the ability to do it. It's going to take a lot of volunteer help, I think.
Well, unfortunately, the good positives is there is time. I mean, it's
Correct.
starting, it would be next fall, so that's almost, you know, a year away. And again, just because a traditional football thing looks one way doesn't mean our pilot starting anything has to be like anything ever was. I mean,
Correct.
you know, again, I think we have done a lot of great things, but I think this fall / winter really needs some work in us figuring out what our priorities are, what we're going to be doing, what our whole everything looks like. And that's why I'm excited Sally has a lot of experience in helping with some of those kind of things in other groups and what have you that have gone on. So I think it's almost that like rebuilding of what we are and creating a mission and our goals and some of those kinds of things. And I think then the other thing that just popped into my head that would be another legal question, I guess, with us taking on that kind of thing, would it still, I mean, the insurance piece of it would be covered per the town, per just like it is for tennis or just like it is for any of the other events.
Correct. Now, I will want to get clarification from Versa on a couple of things. It's a big difference between you and I going down and playing tennis at Torrey Smith and some kid, you know, bashing one another with a football helmet. And so I will have to double check. Correct. But you're absolutely correct. Another thing I mentioned to your point, and Sally, I have to admit, she was pretty excited about the idea of us presenting you folks with a catalog. We've got probably a list of 25 preliminary ideas of what we would like to do throughout the year. And if the Parks and Rec Department could put out a PDF online catalog of events and pricing, and we've got some events that we want to do in December and January that we're going to hopefully work on because we've gotten really, really good cooperation with Mitzi and the folks at the foundation. So the community center is going to be something that we can utilize a lot this winter. I'm just hoping that COVID doesn't do something crazy in the next couple of months, but I think that's a really, really good thing. So yes, football is a dream that we can put on the mantle, but I think in the meantime, with the folks that we've been so kind to volunteer, we can at least preliminary get an idea of what it was going to cost. Do we have stuff that we need to throw away? Can we reuse some stuff? The chairwoman, I believe, the school board said we can go in the school and wash the uniforms and kind of call them.
For a person who didn't grow up here, has been here for the past few years, what is the participation rate for football?
I would say that ebbs and flows by maybe 10 kids, 15 kids every year. But I mean, I think at some point we had, depending on age groups, we would have 50 girls cheerleading and we'd have, I don't know, 60 to 75 boys playing football. And Kenny can speak to this.
Yeah. So probably for the cheerleaders, there's usually two age groups, JV, varsity type things. You're probably getting 8 to 10 for JV, probably 10 to 15 for varsity. And a lot of those kind of overlapped.
And what are, for the age ranges, are you talking like 8 to 16?
So I believe for the girls, it was like 6 to 14, 15-ish. And then for the boys, we had basically had 3 different leagues. We had Pee Wee, JV, and then varsity. And that was from like 5, 6 years old to like 8, and then 9 to 11 or 12, and then 12 to 15-ish. And then those 15-year-olds basically rolled either the last year either rolled into JV or stayed back, depending on their age, range and stuff like that. So, and we probably had 15 to 20 per team. So Pee Wee, JV, then varsity. And we had pads for all of those. We had jerseys, we had helmets. We had
And
all
they're
that
playing
stuff.
like just regionally with the other towns. So.
Yeah, so we had like Caroline, Lancaster, Essex,
Okay.
King George. Now, a lot of those teams have changed their programs and have done like travel ball. So we'll have to see how we fit into that. And again, travel ball, and it's a lot of these times, anytime we play any other county, it's a travel team basically. So, parents would pack up and, if kids couldn't catch a ride, somebody stopped and grabbed them. And over the years, the town, citizens, residents, businesses have all chipped in to make sure that these kids have the ability to play these sports. I mean, there's nothing better than watching the kids on Saturday morning out there huffing and puffing and playing and running and doing all the great things.
And I remember when we first came here, it was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Saturdays
Well,
out there.
that's really, I didn't have to go through too far. I just want to say what is the participation rate compared to, what level of effort we want to put in, is how do we look at ourselves more as a facilitator
Sure.
versus trying to actually run it when you actually probably gonna have parents that are gonna want it.
Well, a lot of these kids are going out of town to Westmoreland or King George or even Caroline to play since we don't have a team. And I've been asked multiple times, when is it coming back? When is it coming back? We got plenty of coaches that want to coach.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that want to contribute and help out. I mean, it was a labor of love when Mr. Duke took it from infancy, and even the last couple of years when I was coaching with my oldest son and middle son, I guess. And now that my son's ready to play, there's nothing there. So, I have a vested interest as well to make sure that this continues, not only for the town, but, for everybody that's been through this program before. So,
That sounds great.
And I just want to make just a comment in regard to this too. My son played 5 all the way through high school kind of thing. So but I think the key word we need to think about in all these things that we're planning, doing, talking about is balance. Because if it sounds like, oh, Parks and Rec is just doing football, or oh, they're just doing that, and everything that we do moving forward and looking at this catalog and what is out there that we're wanting to do, I think we need to be very on the forefront of thinking, okay, if we're doing something like this for kids like this, what are we going to do for the 65-year-old people, because art programs and things like that are Parks and Rec. There's more to it than just football, basketball, those kinds of things too. So
To that point, Madam Chair, it's one of the things that I talked about Sally in the first couple of days. We've got to do that exact same thing in balancing out. Some of the ideas that we have just come up with were, dances for people that are 65 and over. We don't want to leave anybody out because that age group is, quite frankly, the largest population we have in town. Specific to your question, Mr. Mice, I'll be quite honest with you. It's just Sally and I in the department. So our involvement, as I would see it, would be to still heavily rely on volunteer groups, because there's just no way. I think what I would like to do is work with regional partners to come up with a schedule for the kids. We handle the uniforms, the registration fees, the games, finding referees, all the stuff that you would see at a normal Parks and Rec. But this is not going to work if we don't have parents and people that are willing to do the coaching, do the driving, unless Mr. Allison is not lying about buying a used school bus.
No, I understand that.
No,
My
to your point, we just can't handle the bandwidth of that.
It's like if we're just facilitating, looking for that would help lead these efforts and, maybe even leverage NGOs that might want to be football NGO. It's those type of things, like how BAM does certain things.
Correct.
Because I think it's just like, I don't want it, as Madam Chair was saying, there's a point of excess for what we can actually accomplish versus what, if we're talking about coordinating that, then we should put all our efforts into that piece of it versus like just focusing on one sport.
Correct. Yeah, I've been, like Mr. Allison, I've been asked about it a lot, and I have to be honest with folks and say, look, this is something that's near and dear to my heart because my father helped found the thing almost 50 years ago. But I said, you have to understand the Parks and Rec Department is 2 years in. There's 2 people now working for that, and I don't have a staff that can go out and chalk the field on Friday nights. I don't have a staff that can, hire referees. So there's still going to be that volunteer component. And to Karen's point, if we can do football and cheerleading, then I also want to do a book club or an art club or something else that kids can get involved in. Because I got 2 kids and neither one of them play football. So I have to, look at the broader scope of the town, not just this one particular thing. So.
Okay, another sport entirely, tennis.
I would like to thank everyone who came out to the intermediate advanced tennis pop-up round robin this weekend. The weather was cool, but very nice for tennis. Everybody had a good time. People wanted to see us having more often, and the only negative that I got was they'd like to see more advertising, promoting it, other ways to hear about it. We had some people who saw us up there playing, and were like, hey, how do we find out about this? On the town website, on the posters. And, we've talked about this. Communication is one area that I feel like we're still working on for Park and Rec, getting communication out there. And I know I've already noticed that we're getting better, but we have a journey still to go with that, to keep it going. On another note with the tennis, BAM put on several youth tennis mentoring programs that went very, very well. The kids had a great time. They are connecting with BAM to be able to continue to borrow BAM's rackets and tennis, and they had a great time. The last group we had last Thursday, we had 16 third graders, which was a lot of fun. I'm not going to say that anybody's going to Wilmington, not Wilmington, but or the US Open, but they had a great time, and all our volunteers had fun working with the kids, and the other programs went really well too. So that's where we are with the tennis right now.
Thank you. Real quick to your
Oh, and it
communication.
was in BAM was in collaboration with Park and Rec on those youth programs.
Thank you. And happy that you were able to allow us to sidle up to you, just as Karen's farmer's market. She's done the exact same thing. So we thank you for that. Real quick, we have someone who has a wonderful voice, and she does PSAs. So another means of getting some of our communications out. We have help on that one. So any ideas that you might have? I mean, I know that Facebook doesn't cover everybody. I know that the radio doesn't cover everybody. We did do some flyers that we were able to laminate and get them up. So if that improves things, what else can we do? Just let me know. PSAs.
Yeah, we'll check.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anything else? Okay, council recommendations. Did we have anything we wanted Kenny to take back? I guess we have the reappointments.
Reworking on my bonus.
Yeah.
For this month.
A new seat.
And yeah, we'll do the announcement for the open seat for applications for that.
May I ask Mr. Allison if we could take the comments from tonight in regards to Eleanor Park specifically? He could mention that in his council report next Wednesday, because I think we've taken the initiative to get this the ball rolling. We can do it again if we want. But I think all the comments that, Eric and Edward and Susan and you folks have made, in addition to Dr. Karen's email, we could wrap these things up and give council an idea of what folks in the community want to
I think as a start, yes, I think there's still the opportunity that we should have a survey of some sort as well, so we can get more input, because, I mean, you can tell by as many people as we have here in the comments, I mean, probably, there's gonna be a lot more people that are gonna want interest in this. If they didn't get the word for some reason, we need to be able to make sure the information gets out so folks can provide it.
Agreed. And I think in the North Side Park, the consultant aspect of it we discussed, I think they are going to offer, again, something more scientific than what we can offer just by public comment, for example. I think I'd have to go back and read some of their submissions, but I think they may be able to survey the community on all these issues as well, including Eleanor, if we're able to get that going in the next couple of months. If not, we just have to do a survey monkey or something like that, limit it to one per household, one email per submission. That might be an easy way to do it. Matter of fact, the one you sent me back several months ago might work for that. But I think this was a good start. So I'll email you some suggestions and you can just take those forward, if that's all right with you all.
Anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Short and sweet, Karen.
1 hour.
Right?
I've got 2 questions for you
Please.
regarding the run this Saturday, so it's not Department of Recs related.
I'm gonna have to break your heart on one of them, I think.
Do you have an expectation that they will be mowed?
Yes. It would have been mowed. It would have been mowed,
Midweek, last week, but, the Chamber of Commerce decided to set up 2 different dates for their application.